How's it going, Lewis?
Yeah.
Just that noise. That's exactly how it's going. God damn it,
It was
phone.
sound like a PlayStation Vita thing.
It's a PlayStation alert on my phone. People are fucking talking.
There we go.
I'm turning off my fucking phone. Actually, I can't.
I'm good with
I'm gonna
noises.
get a call soon that I might need to answer. Fuck. Oh well. Hopefully, it won't interfere too much. Anyways.
Hair in my mouth.
So you're feeling kind of tired, so we may end up doing a very quick recording this week, which I know we tend to say and then not do. So we'll see how it actually ends up.
Fucking hour.
Yeah, we'll see how this actually ends up, but so we should probably get right on into it, so we can wrap this up, so we can stop it, phone, so we can you can sleep. But this is already a shit show. Thanks, phone.
Yeah, this is gonna be one hell of an episode.
this is basically like production values the episode. Like shit's just going off all around me.
We've stopped caring for our actual I don't know, respect and stuff, so now we're just fucking shit out, really.
I think it's made it better. I think we were too stiff at first though, so now that we don't give a fuck, it's more natural.
Yeah, that's probably true actually, yeah.
Anyways, first up we cover ReZero, so we should probably do that. And thank God we only have to cover one episode for everything this week. So what did you think of this week's episode of ReZero, Lewis?
Okay, words fail me right now, so
just do your best.
It was good. Yeah, thank you. It's interesting. I don't know what the deal is with the white whale. I think it's what I kind of assumed during the episode is that if you get eaten by the white whale, everyone kind of forgets about you, but then to explain why everyone forgets about Rem, but then it's just kind of people seem to remember this great swordsman or some shit that got eaten by the white whale, so it was also a weird transition. I also noticed between there was a little part where the white whale is about to crush or eat Subaru, and then it just kind of transitions into daylight, and the carriage approaches him and he heads off into town. That was a weird transition. Probably means something, but I'm not going to look into it. What else was there? The re-encounter with Amelia. That was nice. Again, it was just showing off the true desperation in Subaru. It just seems to be a common theme nowadays where he can just go that extra level bit more desperate, which is kind of fun to see, to watch. Not really, but still, yeah. This time he was literally just giving out his frustrations, probably of himself more than anything, because he was talking to Amelia. He was referencing you're just fucking up every time, man. You're rash, you're bold. He was talking like that, but it's kind of obvious he was kind of talking to himself there because he was crying. It's a nice scene. I like the scenes where Subaru kind of you've only really seen it with Amelia, where he gets so goddamn desperate to save her that he's just if you just follow me, everything will go right. Why won't you fucking follow me? It was also kind of cool this time around when he tried to explain the reborn by death or whatever, and the witch hands, or the unseen hands, I guess, that Belgaloo's or dude called them. They he stroked his heart like a newborn baby instead of grappling it like a titty. So you had that, which was nice. Belgaloos, dude, bad guy. He came about in the end of the episode, probably signifying that he didn't actually kill Amelia, which was interesting because that's what I assumed. So yeah, lots of things to think about in this episode. A very good episode, I must admit. Very interesting. I liked it. 8 out of 10.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
just to put this out there, while we're recording this, I have a second monitor going on with a fucking Pokemon Go radar with Pokemon. A fucking Venomoth just spawned across the street. I almost want to run out and go get it in the middle of this recording.
Venomoth.
Just saying.
Venomoths aren't that common, man. I mean, aren't that
I
rare,
know,
man.
they're not that common. Like, Venonats, you can get quite a few and you can evolve them, but a fucking Venomoth, like, literally across the street, it's like...
Oh, Venomoth. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I thought you said Venonat.
No, a Venomoth. I almost want to,
Yeah.
like, fucking just get my shoes on and run across the street, but I won't because I'm a professional. Another one will spawn sometime later.
You'll just get someone else to do it.
There's no one else to do it. Anyways, back to ReZero. Yeah, I agree. The comment about the swordsman that got that lost the battle of the white whale is interesting because it seems like what happens is the whale seems to like eat people's existences almost. Like it resets them. Like it's almost like in a way somewhat of a polar opposite to Subaru in the fact that like their existence is like gone. Like their time, their existence, it's like just vanishes. Like even things that happened in the past and their belongings are just gone. So that's it would also make sense for why Subaru remembers it because he has like a power that works in almost an opposite way, not directly, but like on a not a thematic level, but like a conceptual level, I suppose. Like they're almost opposites. So it makes sense for why he remembers everything and everyone doesn't. And the comment about the swordsman, I feel like is important because it means that he either didn't actually get eaten by the whale, or he made it up, or it's an urban legend, or maybe he was killed by something else and not actually the whale, which could tie into the whole lying thing. Because it seems like it's a pretty unanimous thing. Like the whale did it twice. It ate a carriage that no one remembered, and then it ate Rem and no one remembered her. So it seems like it's a thing that happens no matter what. Like it doesn't seem like there's any exceptions, at least so far. So the whole story with the Master Swordsman is just kind of like this fishy thing that's in the air to think about. And I mean, ReZero's this show kind of shows so far where it does this kind of thing and expects you to connect the dots, and then it comes into play later anyways. So it seems like it's a thing. As for everything else, yeah, the whole scene with Emilio was really good. Like you mentioned with Subaru's speech being about him was like this big reveal. Because at first, you know, he's desperate to get her to, you know, go somewhere and he can't tell her the details, obviously. And like he just wants her to believe him. And he's just like, why can't anyone believe me? And it's just kind of like this super frustrating thing because it's again going back to like episode like 13 or whatever all this shit happened. And Subaru's been through all this crap and like no one else has, and this like separation of what he's experienced versus what everyone else has experienced is like really digging into him at this point. So like when he's just telling him like, just trust me, just get out and you'll be fine, and then people just can't believe him because they haven't seen what he's seen and experienced what he's experienced is really like clawing at him. And then when the speech switches to like seemingly degrading Amelia, you're just kind of like, why are you doing this again? When it then later turns out, because he's crying, he's like projecting and he's talking about himself, like, you know, no matter how you do, you know, you'll fail no matter how hard you try. All your mistakes just lead to this pile of corpses that continuously gets higher. And then you see it on Amelia's face too. Like at first when he starts, she's just like, what the fuck? And then she just kind of looks at him and she like kind of like her expression changes slightly, like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? And then that's when it switches into the transition where we see through her eyes that he's, you know, crying, which is a nice parallel because I rewatched the 13th episode a bit earlier ago. And at first when he snapped and was telling her how she has a bunch of debts to him, the reaction was shown through her eyes. Like the reflection of Subaru in her eyes was him like losing his shit and telling her that stuff. So this was a nice parallel in this episode to like almost go back to that. And this time he's like broken down and crying and talking about himself this time. So it was really a smart way to do that. And then obviously we have the whole plot twist with the how he's ready to, you know, spill the beans no matter what it means for him. And then the hands end up not actually doing anything other than probably killing Amelia, which is interesting because it shows that the curse isn't like just this. It may not even be a curse at all. Like it may just be like something constantly watching over him that's actually organic, because the idea seems that the curse doesn't want him telling people. And the whole point was before it hurt him and that would stop him. But he explicitly says, at least in his head before he does this, that he doesn't give a shit what happens to him this time. Like he's just going to bear it, Nice one, dude.
I dropped my phone, man. Yeah.
he's just gonna bear it. He's gonna go through with it no matter what. And so when he does that, the curse knows that even if it gives him pain, it's not going to stop him. So instead, it does the one thing it can do to stop him from spilling the beans, which is killing Amelia. So it's a further driving home thing because before the whole reveal that Subaru couldn't tell people what was going on, people were all like, why doesn't he just tell people? And then obviously that reveal came out that like he's in deep shit if he tries to tell people. And then for the most part that sated people, but there were a couple people that were like, well, why doesn't he find a way to work around it? You know, like how does this like explicitly work? People trying to figure out ways like how he could do it instead, and we're like getting upset at him about because of that. So this episode was really smart in a way of I guess it was in the original light novel too, but the writing was clever in like getting rid of that mindset too, and the fact that even if Subaru tries to get around this shit, like he literally cannot tell people because the curse will do whatever it takes, whatever is necessary to make sure that he doesn't tell people. At first it was fine just hurting him, and now it's at the point where it has to kill whoever he's talking to make sure he doesn't do it because he doesn't seem to care about getting hurt anymore. So I liked, because I read comments on the episodes quite a bit when the episodes air, because I like to see what people are thinking. Like, it's actually, I've been reading the A&N comments a lot, which is surprising because normally that place is a shit show, but ReZero's actually been super fascinating. People write like fucking character essays each episode on like character analysis for everyone, and it's super interesting. But someone had an interesting comment about how the hands, when it went to his heart this time, like, obviously it didn't do anything and it just like kind of caressed his heart instead, but someone made the comment that it was almost like condescending in a way of like, do you really think you can get past me like this? Do you really think this is gonna work? Like, it was an interesting take because again it ties into the idea of it like not just being a simple curse, which I mean is kind of obvious at this point, but maybe Satella or whoever placed the curse is like directly watching him this whole time, you know, and they're the ones doing this or whatever. So it's very interesting. And then obviously we have everything that happened in the rest of the episode. But I have to say, as nice as this episode is, and as like a lot of plot reveals we get, and like the thing ReZero's always been good at, which I've always praised it for, is how it doles out information in an explicit way, because Subaru wants to know things and he asks about stuff and people tell him things that are obvious because it's whatever's relevant to the conversation at the time. But it also gives you information to think about if you actually take a second to take everything in mind. Like, obviously, the whole thing with the Master Swordsman. Like, we learned the story about this Master Swordsman who fought the White Whale and supposedly died. But if you pay attention and think for yourself, you realize that that doesn't line up because their existences get erased. So you know something's fishy there. So that's always been something that ReZero has done as its approach to explaining things and, like, going over the lore and stuff that I've always really liked and praised and such. Which is, like, obviously, it's just probably the biggest positive of the show. But I have to say, I've been wishy-washy on this arc so far about how I feel about it in general. And I have to say, I think, like, it's still good, but I think I liked the second arc more, and I've been trying to figure out why. And I think I found out after thinking about it for a while, and I think it's just because of, like, the pacing. Like, the way the information's rolled out with the way I just explained with how, you know, you get stuff on the surface with what's going on, and then you get more if you look into it, if you think about it, is still there, but the pacing at which, like, things are happening literally in the show is very different from before. Like, the obvious example as far as, like, literal pacing is, like, Subaru died, like, each episode in the past. Like, basically each episode happened, encapsulated to death, we moved on. Sometimes there were exceptions, mainly when we were near the end. And in this arc, we went, like, a good 3 or 4 episodes before he died. And as a result, it feels like we're learning, like, it's the higher priority of this arc seems to be about telling us about the world's lore, which isn't inherently a bad thing, but compared to what's happened before, it feels like it's really laying it on. Like, it's really trying to get this impression of, like, shit is happening. You can kind of explain it also with this episode with he talked with Beatrice, and Beatrice made the comment of like how he doesn't understand anything, which was also a bit of a comment towards the audience too. We don't understand anything. We don't understand it at all. And how like there's this big picture that we need to get a hold of. And the previous arcs obviously had like a bigger picture too, but it was largely contained to whatever the events were going on with the characters. Whereas this time it's more like, you know, the country, like shit's going down in a universal scale. And it kind of makes sense because from what source reader or source material people have been saying, apparently, which could be wrong, they could be inferring this incorrectly because it's not like source material people haven't done that before. But the comment seems to be that when Tepe wrote this stuff, what he did is like the first two arcs were largely just like as they happened. Like they just kind of like he wrote them as they happened for the most part. He probably had like a general idea of like what he was doing, but for the most part they just kind of happened, like he was just writing. And then apparently starting with the third arc is where he decided where he wanted the story to go all the way up until the end. So he started laying the groundwork for it, which makes sense for why the pacing feels the way it does, as far as like expanding the story into like such this big scale. Which it felt natural at first with like, you know, the princess candidates, because we've been leading up to this. But then like the whole thing with the witches cult, and then everything with Puck and Beatrice's comments about how we don't understand everything, or we don't understand anything, I should say. It's just like a bigger scale than expected, which would, I guess, normally be a good thing, but it feels almost overwhelming a bit at the same time. It's... I don't know how else to word it. I think I pretty much said what was on my mind. Maybe later on I'll think of a better way to word it. I still like the show a lot. I just feel like I kind of prefer the second. I feel like the second arc is almost like the magnum opus at this point because of how well done it was. Like, it was literally the most perfectly paced arc of almost any show ever, especially with how it laid out the information. Because we had the information, like I mentioned, how the clever way it doles out information was obviously always been a thing. But what was so cool about the second arc was it was almost like a murder mystery. Like, and the way it paced it was so perfect, because the first episode, we know all this things happens and Subaru's happy and all this cool shit's happening, and then it ends with this reveal that he's looped, and we have literally no clue why it even happened. It's just like, what the fuck? Like, what just made him loop? Did he actually die? Did something else trigger it? We don't even know the circumstances. And then the second episode ends with, you know, obviously him vomiting all over the place, all over the palace, and then getting fucking murdered by something. So we know, yes, he was killed by whatever the fuck this is, and then someone also brutalized him, which seems a bit different from before, but we start to get a clearer picture. And then the next episode, it ends with the revealing that Ram is the one Rem's the one with the mason shit killing him. And like, we get this more concise picture as we go each episode. Whereas with this arc, we haven't gotten to that point yet. It's still expanding. It hasn't gotten more concise. It's just gotten bigger. Like, it's just making like the questions all the more large. It's like, what is going on? Which it could obviously turn around at some point, which I feel like it will. Obviously, the arc has to end, so we have to get some resolution to some point. But we've gone like 5 episodes into this arc, or maybe like 6. I don't know. I can't fucking count. So we've gone a lot of episodes into this arc, and we like still have no fucking clue how any of this is going to get resolved, because it hasn't gotten more concise like each episode did in the second arc. And it's not necessarily a bad change of pace. It's just so different from what happened before. It's almost jarring. So it's just like a bit of it's almost, I want to use the term uncanny valley, but that's not really like the right thing at all. But it's a similar kind of mentality where it's not inherently bad. It's just so different that like it feels weird. So that's what's kind of been nagging at the back of my mind this whole arc, I suppose. I think I rambled on enough, though. Do you have any comments, Lewis?
I literally cannot add anything to that, even if I tried. Like, yeah, I get you. Like, there's a definite different shift in tone throughout this, which has kind of made for that sort of, I guess, keen difference between the second and this arc. I guess for the fact that like everything's been expanding past that kept on expanding is probably because like this is probably the arc that's going to finish off the show, whereas the second arc was just like a few episodes long. So I guess they've kind of like taken upon themselves to be like, we got a lot of runtime to cover here, we might as well fill that time with a lot of lore and expansion to our original story. So I feel like we're not getting that sort of like I guess answers little by little like we got in the second arc, but I feel like we're kind of going in a little, I guess, arc in things we don't know, so to speak. Like, we're going to get to we're going to keep going up and up and up and get to that maximum peak and then drop off when all the answers start getting when all the questions rather start getting answered bit by bit. So I feel like that's what we're going on, a literal arc, if you will. Yeah, that's my input on that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think a lot of our feelings toward the arc is obviously going to change over time because we're still like in the middle of it. And especially because it's still essentially in the build-up phase. But I don't know if that might change with the next episode, because not only, I wouldn't say anything if it was like, of course source material people are saying, oh my god, the next episode is going to be so amazing, you guys just, you can't fucking wait for it. And it's always like, okay man, sure. But even the staff of the show are hyping up the next episode, which is fascinating. Like, apparently they've been like, there's already an announcement that it's going to be like extra runtime. Like, it's going to be like 25 and a half minutes or something, and I'm assuming that's also cutting out the OP and ED like usual, and so it's not like a huge stretch in time, but it is a good couple minutes more than usual. And apparently they're even advertising like the specific episode in like advertisements around like train stations and shit. There are pictures of it, and it's fascinating. Like there's a lot of like I said, if it was just the source material people, I'd be like, okay, man, sure, we'll see what happens. But the fact that the staff themselves are even, like, making a big deal about this episode makes me, I don't want to say anxious, but very curious about what happens as far as, like, what they're doing. Like, I expect, if they're hyping it this much, they probably have a lot of time spent on the episode, which means, at the very least, the production value of this next episode's probably going to be top tier. So, excited for that at the very least. We'll see as far as like how actual plot and character stuff goes, but at least I know I can look forward to the production value if they're this excited about it. But yeah, I think we spent a lot of time on ReZero. Was there anything else you wanted to say?
Nah, you covered it.
Yeah. So, we should move on to the next show, which is Orange. And what happened last episode? Drama stuff, but then again, the whole show's a drama. What did you think of this episode of I almost said ReZero again. What did you think of this episode of Orange, Lewis?
That's boring. Like, stuff happens. Like,
stuff happens in fucking any show. That's the dumbest explanation I've ever heard.
Well, what are you expecting from me at this point? Like, I remember thinking to myself while watching it, is that if this was like a 5-minute short, if this episode was like done in 5 minutes with all the key points and all the key things thrown in, I think I would still walk away with the same sort of reaction, I guess, because a lot of it is just filled in with these sort of, I guess, slice of life stuff, I guess, like conversations that are about nothing, interactions to kind of reinforce the idea of them being friends, or Kakelu and his girlfriend not being all that comfortable together. Like, they're reinforcing ideas which I've already accepted, which is boring to watch, to say the least. But in that, it was, like, I'm glad that, like, I get what they're trying to do with her not following the letter, because I get it, because, it's asking a lot to do, which is kind of strange when that letter is literally just asking her to talk to someone, which is, I don't know, I guess a lot, but yeah, I get that, like, she can't follow through with it because of her feelings and stuff, but it's just those moments when, like, she's kind of like running off in despair. I don't feel anything. It's just kind of boring, really. It's always the matters when things start to skewer off the letter and how things was meant to be. Like, those are probably the most interesting pieces, which I guess is just a fact, really. Like, that's when the show is supposed to be most interesting. But yeah, like, there's this, my problem is the same thing I have with Orange so far, is that there's just a lot of filler in it where I just don't care. And then the parts where it actually is interesting. It's just it's brief. It's brief, so to speak. It is very brief. So, yeah, that's my thought on the episode.
You know, it's so easy for me to just kind of be like, you just don't get it, man. You just don't like slower shows, man. But it turns out like
Man.
fucking everyone who comments on this apparently fucking agrees with you.
Yeah,
So
man. It's a shit show.
no, it's like literally my comments are like the congregation for everyone who doesn't fucking like the show apparently, because everyone else likes it. Like I've seen
Wow.
plenty of people liking it. Last I checked, it's got a good rating on Mal. It's still pretty fucking popular. It's still like the most popular show of the season as far as I'm aware of, unless Mob Psycho jumped up. I haven't checked that lately. Like even then it would have only passed 91 days. So people seem to like the show, but apparently I'm just a congregation for all the people that don't, which maybe I've built for myself being someone who doesn't like Clanad, and that's a pretty easy comparison.
That's true, actually, yeah.
Even though I'm
People
trying to
just
point
love
out
me.
that Orange does all the things right that Clanad doesn't. So, I don't know.
People just love me and my opinions. They can't help but agree with
I
my
should just
luscious tone.
I should just transfer the ownership of the channel over to you, Lewis. Clearly, you have the better opinions.
God, fuck off with that bullshit. That's too much effort, really. It takes me too much effort to actually like sit down and record with you for an hour. I cannot run a YouTube channel full time. That is no.
Anyways, unsurprisingly, I liked the episode.
Yeah.
If there's a negative that I could agree with you on, I guess I could start with that. It's that I don't necessarily feel the relationship between the two leads yet. Like, I don't... Like, we got it in the whole episode. Like, the way it was presented in the episode was, like, obviously they had a conversation, they bonded a bit, which was nice, but then the way it, like, sealed home the deal was just the letter saying, I fell in love with him that day, which feels a bit hand-wavy. It was kind of like, well, we laid up the groundwork, so now they're just in love, okay? Like, that's just what the letter says. So
Yeah.
it's a thing. I mean, you could argue that maybe, like, if the show was a bit more clever about it, as far as how it presented it, maybe you could argue the angle that, like, the letter almost led her to fall in love. Because what's happened with the letter so far seems to almost predict the truth. So when it says, I fell in love with him, she's like, oh, I am in love with him, you know? Like, it almost, like, led her into that mindset. But the portrayal of the show didn't do enough to argue for that angle, unfortunately. Although it would have been a pretty fun angle. As for the rest of the episode, I still liked it. I very much appreciated the comment, you kind of went over it, that it was almost a meta commentary on how she couldn't follow the letter. It was almost like this big speech about how it's real fucking easy to be on the sidelines and tell someone to do something when you think you know what's better for them, but it's one thing to actually, you know, be in the trenches doing this shit. You know, like there's a lot of caveats in place as far as what's actually happening. And she's observed that things in the letter have changed, like even just slightly, even from other days based on a couple other things she's done that the letter has said so far. So she has literally no guarantee that if she follows the letter, everything will work out fine. Like, it's just largely, the letter's just a giant suggestion list, really. Like, it doesn't really guarantee anything. It's the whole hindsight's 2020 thing, you know? Like, oh, if I did this in the past, everything would have worked out fine. If I had just talked to that girl one time and told her how I feel, would be romantically in love at this point and have a loving relationship, when you don't actually know that for sure. It's very hard to, like, be in the trenches and have someone tell you, do this, do this, do this, and you're just like, but will it work? Is that okay, you know, with all things? So I really appreciated that angle of the episode. Another part that I really liked, Sua being bro of the fucking millennium. Letting his fucking feelings go to the side for a bit just to, like, you know, repair Naho from feeling like complete shit. I believe Naho is her name. I'm trying to remember names this season. So that was, I liked that. Like, you mentioned last episode that everyone felt like caricatures. What do you think about Sua now that he was willing to put his feelings to the side to help the, you know, friendship stay stable? Because obviously Naho was in a bit of a bind. So having him lay those feelings aside so she could, you know, fix everything with Kakeru, and, you know, they could be, you know, happy again and everyone could get along and such. Because you could see, like, she was not herself during their little trip in the beginning of the episode. They didn't feel right. I get what you're saying about, like, how a lot of stuff in the show feels like fluff. I could see how it's very easy to see it that way. I don't agree with it. I feel like it is proper build up because maybe it's just because I know what it's building up to and I see what they're doing and I appreciate it. Again, something I don't feel Clan did, so I appreciate the different approach and actually bothering to set things up. But like I said, I do get how people would necessarily look at this and say like, can't you just make it shorter? I don't mind the pacing. Like the only time I ever feel, I always use my own judgment for whether I think pacing is good or bad. Like if I'm ever bored during an episode, odds are I don't like the pacing. And I haven't been bored so far watching Orange, although like I've said last episode, the production values and directing could play a lot of part in that. Which is why it was interesting. I don't want to call the guy out, but someone left a comment saying like, leaving aside the directing and production values, Orange is really boring. And I'm just like, what do you mean leaving aside directing and production values? Those are super important for a show. A presentation of a show is almost just as important as what it's about. You know? Like, if a show looks fucking boring, it doesn't matter what the fuck it's about. But it's, like, I almost feel like presentation is super important when it comes to shoujo-esque shows, because if it's presented in a boring way, you're not going to give a shit. So I feel like production values and directing almost play a bigger role in these shoujo-esque shows than, you know, almost any other. So I inherently disagree with that comment, but again, that's me. And, like, I get it. I just think I'm more interested at this point to see whether you come around or not, because obviously we know this is leading to something. And it'll be interesting to see if you're on board at that point or not. I think almost a Lewis social experiment for this episode is what's the most interesting.
Like, it isn't an academia where I just dislike it or anything. Like, I have an active hatred for it, like last season. It's just more a complete and utter lack of, I guess, excitement for it. I'm just completely apathetic for the show. And I think that's probably the thing that's going to be the hardest to, I guess, bring me around, you know? Because, like, I had strong feelings for Academia. Like, I had, like, things I wanted to change about that show. Orange was just kind of like, it's just something I watch for this, you know? It's I don't have any strong feelings towards it. It's just a show. If it does something exciting or I don't know, quote unquote amazing, it's just gonna be that little bit of a, I don't know, man. Like, it has to do something like immensely drastic to like just blow my mind, you know? It's just it's gonna do some. It's gotta do something. It's gotta do something other than what it's doing right now. Like, it's something to keep me interested.
It is all set up at this point, so like I get people not being all that interested. So like I said though, it'll just be interesting to see how that changes over time once the setup is done and we actually establish what it's being set up for.
Yeah, I know, but it's episode 4. I'm repeating the same thing I said about Academia, where I'm just like, it's episode 5 and they're only concentrating on Deku. God fucking damn it. And like, and here I am saying it's episode 4, man, and they're not doing anything. Like, you know, it's the same sort of comments. But yeah, like, it's just, I don't know, like, there has been a lot of non-important conversations throughout the show where I've just kind of like switched off and just it's been hard. Like, I'm not one for shoujos really, unless they're kind of like, I don't know, Amnesia or Diabolical lovers level of sort of like, you know, shoujo, where like I can actively laugh at it. Orange is just kind of like a slice of life shoujo where it's just like, people will enjoy it. People will definitely enjoy the show, and I don't have a thing for the show though. Like, it's just there.
Yeah, but Diabolic Lovers and Amnesia are like hilariously misogynistic, so they're funny because you're laughing at how bad they are. Orange isn't bad. That's why you can't laugh at it.
Which is a damn shame, really.
I mean, we'll see if you come around. You're saying it's the same thoughts you had towards Hero Academia, and we saw how that ended. So,
well, not exactly the same thoughts, because like, I just didn't like Academia at the start. Now I have immense apathy for Orange, so I think that's almost worst, really, because like I don't care about the show, so like that's probably going to affect what I think of it later on, you know. So
maybe. Anyways, was that all you wanted to say about Orange?
nah, yeah.
Nah. Do you want something else to say?
Nah. I'm usually used to you saying, is there anything else you want to say about Orange? So my instincts just say no. And then you just went like, is that all? I was like, no, yeah.
I twisted on you.
Yeah, you just playing with my head, man.
Just a prank. So we should move on to the next show then, which is 91 Days. When did the show turn into a comedy? What did you think of this episode, Lewis?
That fucking dog's face. Jesus Christ. Anyways, yeah. I've been kind of noticing that 91 Days is like, it's a good show, but there's not much to talk about really. Like, I kind of went away finishing the episode being like, that was a good episode. I like the dog in the background. The dog's face. I like the sort of, I guess, gradual rise in, I guess, hostility. Maybe is probably the best way to put it in Angelo, towards him, and he's kind of doing that sort of underground thing or undercover thing, and yeah, I like that sort of thing he's got going for him. But like at the moment, it's just him and what's his face, Marky. Him and Marky just having a big old banter fest, really. He's going around fucking doing juggling for some kids, drinking, having some good old fashioned fucking arm hand test of strength. I forget what they're called, man.
Arm wrestling.
Boom, thank you. Yeah, they're having those and having mighty banter. But yeah, like, I don't know if you consider this a filler episode, but like there were information, and I guess Big Mexico, if they're calling him that, is like, is he going to be a character that's going to come back? I don't know. Is his dog? Wait, no, he died, didn't he? I don't know. His dog's probably going to be a thing. I hope that dog stays. Yeah, I like the show, but I just don't think there's many things to talk about.
Yeah, it's this episode was surprisingly comedic.
Yeah,
like there was the whole little like almost slapstick thing as they were getting out of the back of the shop that had the bar and such in the back, and like they hit him with the car, and then like he got up, and then they like drove away, and it was just like literally like Looney Tune shit. It was just like weird. Yeah, that dog's not coming back. He's staying on the farm. There was a little offhand comment where the guy's like, "Oh hey, take care of him. He'll be a good partner." And he was talking to the farmer about keeping the dog and stuff. So this was literally just like fucking Moe Gangster Adventures, the episode.
That's a good episode.
So yeah, it was largely just like kind of an offhand episode where like not much really happens, which is kind of weird considering this is Shuka's original work that they're trying to put out their show. They've got what they've got, and then they have like an episode where not really anything happened. The most important thing we learned in this episode is that there's another person that's not on the list, which is why he hasn't fucking killed Nero or whatever yet. Like, he needs to figure out who the extra person is that's not on the list. So it seems like my prediction last time that he was being fed false information may not entirely be true, since he literally confessed to the crime, unless he was talking about some other crime where he, took someone out and then a kid ran away, which I wouldn't put it past this fucking show if that was actually what happened. But otherwise, it seems like that he did actually do the crime, which means now at this point we just need to figure out who the fourth person is, which may be the big mystery, like, who's the fourth person? Ooh. We'll never fucking know. There's a fucking Bulbasaur down the fucking other fucking neighborhood. I could never get there in time in 5 minutes. God damn it.
Dude, there's like a fucking Dragonite in my town that's like 2 kilometers away.
Nice. You have a fucking radar for 2 kilometers away?
Yeah. Well, there's a map thing here, so yeah.
Oh, you're using it too?
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, it's pretty useful, especially like I'm just gonna use it until the tracker on the actual app is working again, because that was the fun part of the first couple days where you played and you could actually get closer to stuff and find it. Like, that was super fun. But it's fucking broken, so like now you just basically have to use maps to find anything. Like, there was a time where I went to this area where this Bulbasaur just spawned, and I was wandering around because it was on my map, and I couldn't fucking find it, and it probably despawned at some point, but the list is also broken, so it just stayed on the list forever while I was trying to find it, and obviously I had no fucking clue where it was, and even the list order doesn't tell you anything anymore, so it's a fucking shit show. Like, you have to use third-party apps to know where shit is at this point. Like, is it kind of cheating? A little, but at least you still have to go get them. Like, at least you're not just like, oh, it's right there, click, and then you catch it. Like, you still have to go to those places, so I think it's alright. But, like I said, once the nearby tracker's working again, I'll stop using this map thing. But, until then, like, you kind of have to. Anyways, 91 days. Not much happened in the episode. Like I said, most we learned was that there was a 4th person or whatever, and we don't know who that is yet, so, it's probably going to keep Nero alive until he spills the beans on who that 4th person is, although how he's going to get him to spill the information is going to be interesting, I suppose. I'm wondering if the rest of the show is just going to be them on the road for the most part while he learns information and then does this. I could see the angle they might potentially go for, where they like bond and then doesn't want to kill him or something. Maybe he'll learn that there were circumstances surrounding it or whatever. Although our main character doesn't seem like he gives too much of shit about people's motivations. He's so revenge fueled. But who knows? I don't have anything else to say either. It was fucking Looney Tunes the episode. Do you have anything else to say about 91 Days, Lewis?
Nah.
Yeah, pretty much. Leads us into our last show, which I don't even know if you actually caught up on it or not, because you were way behind last time. What was that?
No.
Did you watch anything?
No.
No?
No.
Wow. So I'm just gonna talk to myself, basically.
Go for it, man. It's great.
So, last show's Thunderbolt Fantasy, which Lewis isn't even watching. He watched an episode and apparently didn't feel like watching anymore.
Like a sane human being would.
Like a fucking boring human being. Maybe if you spent more time fucking watching shows instead of sleeping, you wouldn't be behind.
Maybe if I did, I would actually, like, what?
Wow. Yeah, it was. How do I make this as vague as possible so I don't spoil things?
Dude, I do not care. Like, fucking.
You do fucking care. You just don't know it yet. See, here's the thing about Thunderbolt Fantasy. Either you'll eventually get the stick out of your ass and enjoy it with me, or it'll torment you the whole runtime, and then I'll just get to laugh about it. So literally, I win either situation. So really, it's just your choice whether you want to continue to not like it or not.
And you just didn't want to do Basuo Gaku and HH. Like, and you give me this.
What the fuck would we talk about? Yep, there were some tits this episode. They were tits. Yep. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And like, here we got like fucking, puppets.
Hey,
good stuff.
Hey, the show actually has a fucking plot, but you wouldn't know that because you didn't watch past the first fucking episode.
And Mr. Gakuen has a fucking plot too. Like,
yeah, they're called tits.
I'm not like plotting all capitals here. I'm like talking like lowercase plot, since like an actual sensible plot with a full stop. Like
there is a sensible plot in Full Thunderbolt Fantasy. It's a fucking adventure story. They're banding together with a bunch of fucking enigmatic characters that all have various quirks, with a fucking demon witch voiced by Sako Hara, which is love you, Sako Hara. And they're banding together to go fucking beat up some asshole. It's a classic adventure story. And they're all fucking quirky and fun, and they all have great fucking designs on their puppets. Apparently Good Smile Company actually helped design the puppets, which is actually really neat. Although, I figured out that calling them puppets isn't entirely accurate. Apparently they don't control them by strings. Apparently they actually, like, are hollowed out on like the bottom and stuff, and people actually control them from underneath, which is why there's no like shots of them like below like their waist pretty much. And then any shots of them like under their feet are like either a completely different like thing, or like it's CG or whatever. Which is kind of interesting. So they're more like dolls than actual puppets. So it's kind of interesting. Anyways,
It's all a lie.
point is, it's a classic adventure story with a lot of quirky characters that are fun. Very good choreography, especially for a bunch of like, you know, having to move a bunch of fucking dolls around and do stuff. Like the implementation of the CG into all the action that works largely seamlessly. The one thing that looks fucking weird, although we haven't actually gotten to it yet, is the fucking iron golem thing that's apparently guarding the fortress. That shit looked fucking weird when it was being portrayed, so hopefully it looks less weird when they actually encounter it. Right now, this episode introduced like a core villain who might turn out to join the band. We don't fucking know, but he's a super strong dickhead who likes to fucking kill people. So the choreography in this fight was super fun to watch him like fuck around with people, and he basically turned their own weapons against them. That was fun. So I'm enjoying the show a lot. It's fun. If you can get the stick out of your ass about it being puppets instead of hand drawn, then it's a lot. It's a very fun show to watch. It's very lots of quirky characters. It's a pretty solid adventure setup as far as go to the castle, beat a bad guy, and pretty good choreography and movement, especially considering all the things that they'd have to do to make sure you don't, you know, see people actually controlling the dolls and stuff and moving them around. And the CG implementation, other than, like I said, the Iron Golem, is very well done, and it looks very nice. And, yeah. What did you think of the episode, Lewis?
I didn't watch it. We've already been over this. I didn't watch it.
I know you fucking didn't. Plenty of people are watching Thunderbolt Fantasy.
What?
It's on. Yo, man. This was announced like forever ago that Gen Urobuchi was working on like this one show with like a bunch of puppets and shit. Do you not remember the announcement like a year ago?
No. What? No.
That was an announcement that Gen Urobuchi was doing this. Like, it was fucking announced like a year ago. They've been working on the show for like a fucking year.
Year ago. What was I doing a year ago? Not concerning myself with puppets. That's what.
Did a puppet kill your family, Lewis?
No, I have a puppet on my shelf. Well, it's not really a puppet. It's got like, it's basically just a teddy where you can shove your hand up its ass and then control its mouth, which I guess.
So basically, just like Thunderbolt Fantasy.
Not really. Like, this is a gorilla. It's a little gorilla. It's sitting on top of my little Lego. Well, it's not Lego little. It's pretty big. My Lego droid carrier thing from Phantom Menace. Yeah, I built that. Carries droids, and my puppet gorilla is sitting on it. Yeah, it's next to my I don't know what you call that one. I think it's like fuck. It's Galactic Star. No, that's not it. Point is, it's really cool. It's red and white. Ah, shit, I should know its name. I fucking built a big ass Lego sculpture of it. I should know its name. Oh well, yeah. But point is, I got a puppet. I have a puppet. I have nothing against puppets. I love puppets. I have nothing against puppets. I have plenty of puppet friends.
Then why was your complaint last week just literally lol puppets? That's all you fucking said.
Because anime.
And
we okay. It isn't animation, man. I thought we were covering like animation stuff. Like if you I don't know, if you were like, hey man, let's go watch Faku. No, wait, is that, I don't know.
What the fuck is this comparison? Keep going, I want to hear this.
No, wait, no, it's not Faku.
Keep going, I want to hear it. What's the comparison?
What's that French cartoon that everyone loves?
French character that everyone loves.
French cartoon. It's like
French cartoon.
It's on Netflix.
It's cartoon.
French.
I have no fucking clue what you're talking about.
Cartoon. I'm making a point here.
Okay, we'll figure out what the fuck it is, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Animated series. The show is... Oh shit, Totally Spies was French. I did not know that. The more you know. Wakfu, that's it.
Wakfu.
If you were like, hey, Wakfu.
Isn't Wakfu a shitty MMORPG?
Yes, but it's also a French show.
Gross.
So, okay. That's just rude. If you were like, hey man, let's cover that, I'd be like, okay, it's animation. Fair enough. I kind of wanted to watch Wakfu anyway, so meh. But this is an animation. I know Genu Urabushi is behind it, but like, you know, doesn't mean much. Point is, I don't want to watch it.
It's not like Gen Urobuchi just like fucking wandered into Taiwan, saw some dolls fucking things going on, wrote a script, and then fucking left to have coffee. That's not the level of involvement here. This is like a pretty intense collaboration between the Japanese anime industry and I don't remember what they called it in the episode 0 of Thunderbolt Fantasy where they talked about behind the scenes stuff. But there's a word for it, like the practice that they do. They've been doing it for fucking ever. It's basically like a style of entertainment. Like it's basically like, I don't want to say Taiwan's version of anime, but it's like a similar idea where they have like this unique presentation style as far as how they like do shows and shit. So the whole thing is Urobuchi went to Taiwan, saw this happening, and was like, this is fucking cool. Why didn't fucking anyone tell me people were doing this? It's like right over here in fucking Taiwan. Why didn't anyone say anything? So he and then like a bunch of fucking producers and shit in anime like basically grouped together, because apparently the group that worked on the shows or whatever wanted to actually contact Urobuchi too. And so it's a collaborative process between them and the anime industry, because they also work together with obviously the seiyuu industry in Japan, which I feel like would be the most important thing for you, because you like VAs the most when it comes to anime, not the actual animation. So they collaborate on that process. Basically all the visual stuff is done on the Taiwan side as far as like how the show's done visually, and then obviously they probably do the CG work and stuff too. So all the stuff visually and like the directing and stuff is done there. And then the writing side and the voice cast side, and not the audio side as far as, well, the audio side as far as music too, because Hiroyuki Sawano's doing the music. So like even a lot of the audio side also is done on the anime industry side. So it's a collaborative process between the two. It's like a bridging of the industries, which is why Crunchyroll was so fucking quick to lap it up when they were like, sure, we'll take the fucking license for this and show it. It's fucking airing in an anime time slot. So I'm pretty sure like the entire idea is a bridging of these two mediums together. And I've always been, I don't discriminate against, you know, the different forms of medium of how people present stories. All I care about is how well it's done. And this seems like a very high quality production done by, you know, people who are very good at their craft. Apparently they even own their own station where they air their own stuff. So they are very high quality. The presentation so far has been very, very good. The choreography especially has been very surprising. I haven't seen shit like this ever. Like, obviously, your easy comparison that you like to make is, Team America. But the doll work in that was purposely shitty. Like, it was on purpose, like, for the fucking... Because it was a comedy. Like, of course you could see the strings attached to the puppets and, like, the fucking action scenes where there's them, like, fucking bonking into each other and shit. It's fucking South Park creators. Like, of course they're just fucking around. They don't give a shit. So, of course it's, like, fucking weird. Like, do you remember the fucking sex scene in that movie? Like, it was a fucking comedy. And, like, yes, the puppets were used for comedic effect because that was the entire point. But they were shitty puppets. Because that was part of the comedy. Like, if the puppets actually looked good, it would ruin the whole point of the atmosphere and tone of the movie being a comedy. Whereas in Thunderbolt Fantasy, there's actual, like, production value. Like, have you seen the fucking clothes those puppets wear? How fucking long would it take to make that shit? And apparently, like I mentioned before, the doll work was also in collaboration with Good Smile Company, apparently to, like, make them, like, to make as high quality production as possible. Apparently, they needed the collaboration also to help the more anime look for the dolls, because apparently they normally don't look quite this way. They apparently look a little bit different. But they wanted to get the anime look down, which is why Good Smile Company helped them, especially with the lead female character. And like just the presentation in general for the show has been top tier. Like I don't care how shit's presented. I just care about how it's judged. And I feel like it's enough of a bridge between, these two different mediums that it qualifies perfectly well to talk about it, even if it may not be strictly anime.
Alright, well. Alright. It's okay.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not, like, in any particular, I guess, reasonable state of mind to argue here. I'm just kind of, like, going along. Just... You're not going to win me over in this state. To be honest, the most favorable thing you can do to me right now is, like, hey, man. And then just end it. Like, that's probably the best thing.
I just imagine you right now, like, sitting at your laptop, like, sipping maybe tea or something with, like, one eye constantly twitching. Like, that's how I'm imagining you right now.
I did actually try and go to sleep while you were talking back there, because I am kind of tired.
Wow, fucking rude.
I'm still listening.
Fire you.
I was just... You fire me. You don't even pay me. Like, I don't... but yeah. I was just kind of like resting my eyes, as people say. Not like falling asleep. But
so
yeah.
Rude. So rude.
Shut up.
Anyways, you'll eventually catch up on the show. You'll like it or you won't. We'll see what happens. I feel like if anything, this is a show you'd like. It's fun and quirky. Dude,
like I've had enough of shows just like, being #quirky. Like Cross Ange.
It's not intentionally quirky like Cross Angie. Were you really about to compare Thunderbolt Fantasy to Cross Angie?
Yeah.
That's not the fucking same. Cross Angie's intentionally absurd. Thunderbolt Fantasy is not intentionally absurd. There's good production value on the puppets. They don't look like shit. They look amazing.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not okay. Yeah, I accept that. Like, I can't deny good production values. Like, yeah.
Exactly. Which is why, you're trying to say it's like intentionally lol puppets, and it's not.
I'm just saying it's over the top, man, and that's why I just don't want any part of that, man. I just don't want any part.
What are you talking about? You like weird shit like this all the time.
Yeah, but those are like kind of like, I guess, specified, Like shit like, I don't know, Daimedilla. Like that is kind of like
Daimedilla was a shit show.
Don't you talk shit about Daimedilla. I will come over there and slap your face in. Like, it is just like, it funnels itself into like one specific thing. And it makes fun of it while still being a good old show of comedy. So that's what I like to see. Same kind of goes for High School DD, but when the show kind of like, tries to cover a lot of things, then it just kind of becomes a real meta shit show, and it's just not fun to watch, really. It's just kind of cringeworthy.
But that's the thing. You're saying shows that are like trying intentionally to be like fucking like they are intentionally aware of their own stupidity and using it as comedy. Thunderbolt Fantasy isn't being intentionally stupid. You just don't like puppets for some reason. So you for some reason think puppets inherently means comedy, when it's not. Yeah. They're just using puppets as a means to tell a story.
Man. Yeah. I feel like this is just gonna be the general theme of our discussions for like here on out. It's just like, but man, puppets are nice, and I'm just like, man, no. That's just really gonna be it from here on out. Like,
maybe it would change if you actually watched the episode, so we could talk about what happens in them.
That's a nice fantasy. It'll only happen if I get.
You have a whole week to catch up on Thunderbolt Fantasy. Orange and Re:Zero air on Sunday, and then both 91 Days and Thunderbolt Fantasy don't air until Friday. That's actually kind of weird. The day of the recording, 2 shows release, and then the day after the show hopefully comes out, 2 episodes of shows we're talking about release. It's a very strange schedule for us to talk about these 2 shows. One is like, we just watched it, and the other's like, it's been almost a week since we watched it. Anyways, the point is, there's a huge, like, 5-day gap where you have plenty of time. You can even watch, you don't even have to watch an episode a day of Thunderbolt Fantasy, and you're already caught up. It's super easy.
I realize we're gonna have to fucking record on my birthday. This is gay.
You're gay.
Half. Get it right, you politically incorrect asshole. This is
Is it next Friday?
Yeah, next Friday.
Wow.
Like that, because I was just thinking, like, you know, next week I'm like going into a birthday, and then I just opened up my calendar and I was like Friday the 5th, and I was like, shoot, like that, a kick in the head.
Well, maybe we'll push it to Saturday if it's too busy or something. We'll have to see what your schedule is looking like. I guess we'll have advance warning that the episode next week may be a day late because of things happening.
Boom.
But we'll see. Like, maybe you're not actually doing much on your birthday. It depends. I don't do much on my birthdays, so.
I don't know, man. Like, fucking Uriars is coming over in, like, the 2nd. So, yeah. Boom. I don't know, man.
So it'll be either Friday or Saturday. We'll figure out which day works best.
We'll figure something out. Yeah.
We'll figure it out. So I guess that is the warning. Next week may be a day late because of birthday shenanigans and other things going on. So yeah, I think we're done talking about the shows this week. A little over an hour, but pretty much almost exactly an hour, so not too bad. We did meander a little bit in conversations about Pokemon Go and shit, so there was a little bit there, but well, not a big deal. Anyways, any closing comments, Lewis?
No.
Okay, cool. I thought you would say something like, I'm gonna sleep now or something.
That takes words to speak it from my mouth. This is too much. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, go to sleep. We're done for the week, everybody. See you next week, whether it's a day late or not. We'll see you.
Bye-bye. I might be a year older when you hear from me next. Isn't that just spooky shit?
That's not how it... Whatever. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.